On the 23rd of December, 1805, Joseph Smith was born in the backwoods of Vermont to poor, humble farming parents. His family moved often, hoping to find somewhere they could support themselves financially. At the age of 14, young Joseph Smith was caught in the middle of the Second Great Awakening. A great number of churches and sects moved to his town in Palmyra, New York. There were so many opposing teachings and beliefs that he was confused. Who was right, and how could he know? In the spring of 1820, he followed counsel from the Epistle of James. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. He wandered into the woods near his home early one morning, just as the sun was rising. Once he found a secluded place, he knelt down to pray. He described feeling as if his body was seized by some dark, unknown force, until he experienced what is called today the first vision. He described the experience in his own words. Thick darkness gathered around me, and it seemed to me for a time as if I were doomed to sudden destruction. Just at this moment of great alarm, I saw a pillar of light exactly over my head, above the brightness of the sun, which descended gradually until it fell upon me. It no sooner appeared than I found myself delivered from the enemy which held me bound. When the light rested upon me, I saw two personages, whose brightness and glory defy all description, standing above me in the air. One of them spake unto me, calling me by name, and said, pointing to the other, This is my beloved Son, hear him. Joseph identified the two personages as God the Father and his Son, Jesus Christ. He inquired as to which church he should join and received the answer that he should join none of them. He was told that every church has some truth in it, but no church had the full truth. He said they told him many other things, but did not elaborate. The wooded area where the first vision took place is now known as the Sacred Grove. After this, he went back to helping his dad and siblings on the farm. He did not go out and tell people about his vision, but he would not deny that he had seen it. For this, many people, both religious and non-religious, treated him terribly. Other than that, there wasn't much activity until 1823. That was when Joseph Smith reported visits from the angel Moroni, in which he was told the role he would play in restoring Christ's church. He was visited by many others who taught him what he would need to know. During this time, his family was very supportive and encouraged him to act on these callings. A few years later, Joseph met Emma Hale, and after some begging, her father finally allowed them to get married. They married on January 18, 1827, and immediately moved to Manchester, New York. Shortly thereafter, the angel Moroni told Joseph where he could find the golden plates. Upon the plates, the Book of Mormon was written in ancient language. They were buried in the side of the hill Cumorah near his home. He was also given the Urim and Thummim to translate them. He spent 18 months translating and retranslating the Book of Mormon with the help of Martin Harris, Emma, her brother Jesse Hale, and Oliver Cowdery. From April to June of 1829, Joseph and his scribes worked diligently to translate the Book of Mormon. Joseph and his buddies also learned in this time about old biblical principles such as the priesthood. On April 6, 1830, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was legally organized. There were 6 members on the first day, but Joseph Smith was named prophet and president of the church and set to work right away. He received revelations, called missionaries, and gathered converts. Newspapers were established, property was purchased, crops were planted, businesses were chartered, and industry was commenced. The early members of the church are referred to as the saints, coming from the New Testament meaning of the word, which meant that the person had been baptized into Christ's church. The saints immediately began work on building a temple in Kirtland, Ohio. It was officially finished on March 27, 1836. But after only 2 years, the saints were forced to leave their temple and the beautiful community they had built around it behind. At this time, there were 18,000 members. They had to leave because of financial difficulty due to the Panic of 1837 and because Joseph's life was threatened. He and other church leaders fled to far west Missouri, where many members were gathered. Most of the saints from Kirtland followed. But Joseph and other church leaders were incarcerated in the oxymoronically named Liberty Jail under false charges soon after arriving. They were held under deplorable conditions and could do nothing while the saints were raped, beaten, murdered, had their property destroyed, and were driven from Missouri. The saints fled to Illinois and established the city of Nauvoo, where they began constructing a new temple. There were now 34,000 members. They sought aid multiple times from the Missouri state government and the federal government to get their rightfully purchased property back and get protection. But the government unsurprisingly sat on their hands. Joseph sought support from every influential politician and presidential candidate he could, but no one would rise to their defense. Martin Van Buren famously said, "Gentlemen, your cause is just, but I can do nothing for you. If I take up for you, I shall lose the vote of Missouri." In other words, I'd like to help you, but I can't. Good luck! With no government to turn to, Joseph Smith was nominated as a candidate for the presidency. Unfortunately, though, he did not have much time to campaign. He and other church leaders were soon charged with treason. Rather than fight, they gave themselves up peacefully. They were taken to Carthage jail to await trial. But before they were given a trial, a mob of 150 men surrounded Carthage jail. Some came up the stairs while others waited outside. Joseph's brother Hiram was shot by the bullet meant for him. And died in his arms. Rather than allow the mob to kill the others with him, Joseph ran to the window and let the mob shoot him to death. The other men were spared because of his sacrifice. Persecution drove the saints from the state, and they again had to leave their homes, possessions, and temple behind. The mobs thought that by killing the prophet, the church would dissolve, but they were wrong. The saints made a great migration to Utah that was full of miracles and hardships. They settled in Salt Lake, and today the church has almost 15 million members worldwide.